So, who will speak first? Who is the first time here?
Yesterday was my first time here.
First visit?
Yes. And
Today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, you came together?
No. No. I came by myself.
Yeah, but yesterday was your first time here?
My first time here.
And your name is?
Risha.
Misha.
Risha.
And your name is?
Louise, and I'm the 5th time here.
I see. What name did you say?
Louise.
Louise. Yes, Misha, go ahead.
So yesterday, I listened.
Now, one moment. Louise, do you have any particular questions?
At the moment, not particular, no.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
So yesterday, as I listened to you, it seemed so easy. It seemed easy. Before, I felt that there was so much striving that I needed to do.
Yes.
And
that is. Say, people you go to tell you that this is so easy, who will go to them? More than one.
yeah.
That's one aspect of it. The other is, they themselves don't know how easy it is. They made it so difficult for themselves. Which is more often the case. On the other hand, I'm not saying that no effort is necessary.
Oh, yes.
But where the effort is concerned, the most important point from my point of view, where effort is necessary, two things have to be borne in mind. One, the effort that I am making is truly not my effort. It happens. One, and more important, that I make the effort because it's my destiny to make this effort according to God's will, cosmic law. But the more important is not to expect any result from my effort. These are the two important points. And if these two important points are kept in mind, now I am not talking about spirituality. I am talking in our daily living. Whenever we are making an effort, if we keep these 2 points in mind, which means an effort is let the effort happen. Let the effort happen, and of course, when you are doing something, you obviously want to do the job well, therefore you concentrate on whatever you are doing. That is the basis. Any effort that is being made, even when a child makes an effort, he makes an effort in order to get something, do something. So about that there is no problem. You concentrate on what you are doing, trying to do a good job, no problem. But if you keep in mind that this is a job that is really truly happening through you and not you are doing it, then immediately no stress remains in that effort. No stress remains. So wherever effort is concerned, what I am concerned with is when there is less mental strain and mental stress, less mental strain and less mental stress makes the effort so much more easy. And at the same time, more efficient. The effort without physical strain and mental stress makes the effort that much easier and more efficient. For that very reason, it's more efficient for that very reason. Less mental strain, less mental strain and less physical strain and less mental strain. You'll find your work automatically getting more efficient. And more efficient work, better chance of your work succeeding. Whereas, I am doing the work, I've got to do it well, and expecting a good result is exactly the opposite of that. Your work is less efficient and less chances of your succeeding. So what I'm again saying is, what I'm saying applies to daily living. And also, it doesn't exclude the spiritual thing. That also is the same thing. See the whole point. So, what brought you here?
I've been visiting
Visha, you said Visha?
I came
Your name is
December.
Visha?
Risha, yes.
Visha, yes.
I came in December.
To India?
To India.
Yes.
And I have been traveling all around. And I
You
wanted
came to India as a tourist?
as a tourist.
As a tourist?
As a tourist,
Yes.
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 I figured if I was going to come, I wanted to come for a long period of time. So here I am. in
What
Mumbai.
part of the world are you from?
I'm sorry?
What part of the world?
New York City.
New York City. I
New
see.
York City, yes.
I see.
Yes. That's where I live now.
I see. Yes. And have you voted for Obama? Voting over in your part of the... But how long have you been interested in what I talk about? Now my point is, you came to visit India as a tourist or a spiritual tourist, visiting
As a
ashram.
spiritual tourist.
Ah,
As a spiritual tourist.
so visiting ashram
Yes, and all
and
of
various
holy places.
I
Varanasi, Pushkar,
I see.
Tiruvannamalai. So I've been on the journey.
I see. Now, visiting holy places, what did you think it will do for you? Visiting holy places, and you are visiting only Hindu holy places, or all holy places?
That's a good question.
Muslim holy places, Hindu,
Yeah,
Muslim,
the Muslim, Hindu,
all
all
of
of
them.
it. Yes,
You have been visiting all of them.
all of them.
Ah, I
All
see,
of them.
I see, I see,
All of them.
I see. So visiting those places, what do you expect to get out of it?
You're right.
I can,
I thought, yes,
yeah,
I thought that I was going to get something, but there is nothing to really get from visiting the holy places.
are you sure? I have not visited many holy places, but those that I have,
Yeah.
I did feel a certain energy.
Yes, yes,
These holy places, very, very clear,
yes. You feel a certain
do
energy.
have a certain, so that I see absolutely nothing wrong in people visiting holy places with the idea of sharing in that energy. You see what I mean?
I see
But that's
exactly.
it.
Yes.
But that is all. Not as someone keeping a record of all the places I visited. That's not the idea at all. So is your experience that you find a special sort of energy in these places? Many of these places?
Many of them, yes.
I see. I see.
Yes, many of them. Many of them.
I see. But apart from that, did you expect to get anything from that?
Yeah, right.
And be honest.
Yes. Be honest, I'm going to say yes. Yes, you come to India on a spiritual quest,
Yes, yes,
thinking that you're going to get something.
yes. So what is that something
Well,
that you expect to get?
well, supposedly that something is enlightenment.
I see. Yes. But what do you think enlightenment will give you in this life for the rest of your life that you didn't have before?
That's right.
You see what I mean? That is my
Yes, sir.
focal question. That is my focal question. So that focal question is based on several factors. What am I going to get for the rest of my life in this life? Which means I'm not concerned with the past life, I'm not concerned with the future life. See what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, this is the only life I'm concerned with. That this is the only life Ramesh is concerned with. This is the only life Louis is concerned with. This is the only life Vishal is concerned with. See what I mean? And which is one of the points which is really not truly accepted by most people. So in this life, that is one thing. And two, who is looking for whatever? Vishal, Louis, Ramesh. There is no getting away from it. So who is the seeker? Whatever is being sought, who is the seeker? Ramesh, Vishal, Louis are the seekers in this life. So, what is which is an ego? Three egos. Egos being separate entities with the sense of personal doers. A separate entity. So my point is, what is the separate entity looking for in this life? With the understanding that we are all reasonably comfortable in life, for which we have to be grateful to God, and also the common sense to know that the very basis of life is uncertainty. That most of the sayings are rubbish. As you sow, so you reap is bloody rubbish. It's common sense. Common sense is the only common sense is the only thing you can rely on, that in any given situation you are free to do whatever you want. No question. That is the only sure thing in life. Once you have done whatever you feel like doing in any situation, what happens thereafter has never ever been in anyone's control. Even if God took a human life, the same rules of life will apply. He is free to do whatever he wants, but the result of it has never been in his control. Two, everybody's experience is having done whatever he or she wanted to do in a given situation. The result has always been beyond one's control, but everybody's experience is sometimes I've got what I wanted, sometimes I've not got what I wanted, sometimes what I got was beyond expectation. Many times for the worse, sometimes for the better. Isn't that your experience?
Yes.
Or is your experience the other way around?
No.
Mostly for the better, unexpected.
No, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
And my experience for the better has happened, which, do you know, I'm a very special person in this world. About something that has happened for the better beyond expectation has happened to me, which has not happened to anyone else in the world. Isn't that amazing? I'll tell you what happened. I did my BA here with economics and politics. I had nothing to do with commerce or accountancy. Then I went to London for a BCom degree, Bachelor of Commerce, in the London School of Economics. Many people did that. So there the usual rule was that a graduate who had not done accountancy was allowed to appear for the BCom course. But during that year, they had to pass an examination in accountancy, because that was a subject the arts just didn't know. So the usual, everybody had to appear for an entrance examination. People from all over the world came. It was a very simple exam. The main purpose was to test his control over the English language and the minimum of common sense. That was the purpose. So it was an easy exam. And why choice? Because there was no particular curriculum. So we had to only 2 or 3 questions to be answered, and out of 8 or 10 options. And the usual thing was, for someone who did a BA in Bombay, is what is called partial exemption. Means I would be allowed to appear for the BCom, but during that year I had to pass an examination in accountancy. Subject to that, if I fail from that, then I can't continue. So they always a partial exemption. So when I applied for this, I wrote a really good paper. I was very happy with what I did. No question about that. Then when the results were declared, someone told me, results were going to be declared tomorrow. But if I want to know my result today, I could go to a Professor Plant, I remember, and he will tell you. So I went to Professor Plant. I said, name is, I said, Balsekar. Well, alphabetically right on top. So Balsekar. And he said, full exemption. So I said, sir, I didn't do commerce in India. In India I did BA. Full exemption. I had no courage to ask him a 3rd time. So when I came out, I told my friends, I've been given full exemption. He said, are you crazy? No one has ever got full exemption. No one can. Because you haven't done the accountancy exam. I told him, I asked him twice, but I didn't dare ask him. Anyway, we'll know tomorrow. So on the notice board, the results were declared. R.S. Balsekar, full exemption. How it happened, God knows. But the fact remains that I am the only person in the world who has got a Bachelor of Commerce degree without ever having appeared in any accountancy examination. Isn't that fantastic? So to get back to the point, what is one of us seeking in this life? Who reasonably comfortable in life, for which we are grateful to God. Millions of people below the power, who also have the common sense to know that the very basis of life is uncertainty. The only certain thing is I have the total freedom, total free will to do whatever I want in any situation. That is the only. After that, life means uncertainty. Nobody knows what the next moment is going to bring, and my concept was nobody can know the total amount of pain and pleasure one is supposed to experience in this life, and that it is already predetermined. That has been my own belief from ever since I can remember. But as I keep saying, that is for me is a concept, but for many leading physicists and mathematicians, that is not a concept, that is a fact, based on their calculation. So in other words, life means uncertainty. So living my life, my daily living with uncertainty as the very basis of it. What does Ramesh or Visha or Louisa want in her life as the most important thing? Answer is obvious, happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness. And there again my concept is, why do we say promptly happiness? Because happiness is the very basis of our nature. Our true nature is happiness, peace. That is why we want happiness. How do we know that? How do I decide that my nature is happiness or peace? What's the answer, do you think? Because that is what every human being experiences every once in 24 hours during his sleep. So my point is, our very nature is seen only in deep sleep. And in deep sleep, the mind is not there, the world is not there. What exists is peace, happiness, but it's happiness through peace of mind. You know what I mean? Therefore, what we are looking for is peace of mind. Peace of mind which we have in deep sleep. I want it during my daily living. Not only the 3 or 4 hours in deep sleep, I want it in my daily life. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a fact, whether you call it spiritual seeking or ordinary seeking. Even the spiritual seeker, what does he want? His real nature. Spiritual seeker wants real nature, and his real nature means happiness through peace of mind. I can tell you that from personal experience. These ashrams you have visited, I doubt they would dare to tell you that. But I didn't know that. What I am telling and what you are lucky to know now, I didn't know when I was a spiritual seeker. So, for 40 years, I pursued enlightenment without knowing what enlightenment was, without knowing what enlightenment will do for me for the rest of my life. But as a matter of course, one sheep following another sheep, one spiritual seeker following another. Some relative of mine was going to a particular guru So he took me there, I went along. So I say, for 40 years I pursued enlightenment. And what did I get? Frustration. Why did I get frustration? Because I wasn't sure clearly what I expected enlightenment to get for me for the rest of my life. That is why I tell you it's so important for you, whether you consider yourself a spiritual seeker or not, to know precisely what you expect to get. And there are reasons why the ashrams and other gurus won't tell you why, because they themselves don't know. And they'll admit they don't know. Why will they admit that? Because I don't know what previous life I had. I don't know what next life I'm going to have. So this is not just one life, which is the very basic I refuse to accept. Therefore, in the beginning, what am I concerned with? Ramesh is concerned with this life. See what I mean? So, therefore, and I only for my own seeking. So 40 years I pursued enlightenment, ended up in frustration. So after I retired from work, I started my own personal seeking. And there I decided that what I want is happiness for Ramesh in this life. I'm not concerned with making everybody happy. I'm not concerned with making everybody reasonably comfortable in life. I'm only concerned with this Ramesh. Selfish, of course it's selfish. I confess. What I'm looking for is totally selfish happiness for myself. So, I pursued enlightenment 40 years, ended in frustration. Thereafter I decided that what I shall pursue is happiness for Ramesh. Totally selfish pursuit of happiness for Ramesh. And I ended up by being enlightened. Isn't that a joke? I repeat, I pursued enlightenment for 40 years, ended up in frustration. After that, I started pursuing the selfish aim of happiness for myself. And I ended up being enlightened. For one reason only, and that is I found that the happiness I was looking for was precisely enlightenment that was supposed to give me. But nobody told me that in the 40 years. That's why now I'm telling you this. So, one. Two, whatever I'm telling you is my concept, my experience if you like. And I'm telling you precisely what I'm liquid. But, important point again, the happiness I'm looking for is my concept. What is happiness? My concept. What is enlightenment? My concept. Happiness for somebody may be different. Enlightenment for somebody may be different. So if someone comes in, Ramesh, I'll ask you, do you think you are enlightened? I'll say yes, according to my concept. Do you still suffer pain? Yes. Are you still an imperfect human being? Do you still make mistakes? Yes. Have you got any special powers? Can you be in 2 or 3 places at the same time? Can you know what I'm thinking? Can you know what is going on anywhere in the world? No. Then how can you be enlightened? And that, believe me, is the general impression of what enlightenment is for almost all Indian spiritual seekers. You see? So, my point is, having done this, what I am telling you is, I am enlightened. Therefore, what is enlightenment? For you, first, which were my 2 questions, which nobody could answer. What is enlightenment? More important to go from there. What will enlightenment do for me for the rest of my life? And what do I want? Personal happiness for me in daily living, that which exists in my deep sleep as my nature. Now I'm clear what I want. What I'm looking for is that happiness through peace of mind, which exists in sleep and therefore is my true nature. I want that in my daily life throughout the day. See what I mean? Very clear. And what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is that which will give me this. So first, I have to find what I am looking for. From that, I would know what enlightenment is. See, the reverse process. A seeker is supposed to seek enlightenment in order to get something. He doesn't know what. So the question then is, what is it that I got for it? That which exists, which is happiness through peace of mind throughout the day. So next question is, throughout the day means daily living. And what is the very code and core of daily living? What does one mean by daily living? It's not as vast as it may seem. If we go through one's daily living, it doesn't seem like a tremendous thing. It's a tiny little thing which can be analyzed. What is one's daily living? Routine. Daily living is 95% routine, and a routine based on dealing with the other. What is daily living? Daily living, most of it means routine of my relationship with the other. Think all you want. The other may be my parent or wife or son or a close relative or a neighbor or someone connected with my business or occupation, or a total stranger, in rare cases even a stranger. And my happiness depends on my relationship with the other. All day, daily living means my relationship with the other, and on that depends my happiness. See what I'm getting at? The totally reverse process, which means I want happiness through peace of mind, happiness of peace of mind throughout the day, which means I want happiness and peace of mind in my relationship with the other, whoever the other is. That is the focal conclusion I came to. My next question was, what has been the basis of my relationship with the other so far, which has not brought me the happiness. You see, that is why, as you said, it's so bloody simple. All you have to do is see life as it is, in total freedom and honesty. Therefore, the question at this moment is, what has been the basis of my relationship with the other, whoever the other is, which has not brought me the happiness I am seeking? See, the answer to that was obvious. Answer to that, anyone who honestly thinks about his own must come to the conclusion. Why? Because that has been the basis of one's relationship from the earliest moment in life, as brothers and sisters. So my relationship with my brothers and sisters has been the same basis for the rest of my life. And that is rivalry. They say even sibling rivalry, they call it, in the subject psychology. Even among little brothers and sisters, there is a rivalry. I can't imagine, maybe some very rare species, where one brother says, oh, someone has given me this, I'll give it to my brother. I won't eat it, I'll give it to my brother. And at least half of it. Can you imagine? So rare as to be extolled that we can forget it. What would most people say? Ah, I'm so happy my brother is not here. Now I can eat it, and I've eaten it. Not only that, but I have the additional pleasure of telling my brother what I had when he was absent. I'm talking facts of daily living. Isn't that right? The additional pleasure of seeing my brother cringe with envy for me. And that has been the basis of every human being. The relationship with the other in daily living has been based undoubtedly in 99.9% cases on suspicion and rivalry.
And that doesn't bring happiness.
Suspicion and rivalry where the other is known to be, and suspicion and potential enmity towards a stranger. A stranger, is he going to be a friend or foe?
And this attitude doesn't bring any happiness.
It cannot bring happiness. See what I mean? It cannot bring happiness. And that has been so almost anywhere in the world at any time. That was clear. So on that basis, I decided my search for happiness, which exists in deep sleep, is, according to God's will, supposed to remain in deep sleep. God never intended that my happiness in deep sleep to be enjoyed by me in daily living. So I came to the conclusion that God never expects any human being, and maybe a rare one, but I'm not concerned with that. God does not expect me to be happy in this life. See what I mean? That is I thought a lot about it, I just couldn't get away from it. The only way I can have my original happiness of my true nature, which exists only in deep sleep, in daily living, if my relationship with the other is harmonious. It's totally harmonious. What the religions have called and never understood is universal brotherhood. Whether someone close to me or a total stranger. Universal brotherhood. Which can never happen. But when I totally surrendered, genuinely, with great humility and sincerity, I surrendered, I've got the answer. God does not expect me to be happy in daily life. And I surrendered, it's no use. And when I had truly surrendered, then the answer came to me from outside. From outside obviously means from God. And the answer was short. Answer, you're wrong. I expect every human being to be happy. To be happy is every person's, every human being's birthright. But that one thing on which it depends, the human being is not prepared to accept. And that is the basis of every religion. That is the answer I got. You're wrong. I do expect every human being to be happy. But that happiness depends on one thing which the human being is not prepared to accept. And that is the basis of every religion. That is the answer I got. So one thing was said, my search started. My search for happiness started. There's no doubt now that I am supposed to be happy. And in order to be happy, I knew my relationship with the other had to be totally harmonious. And that I quickly understood what God meant. Basis of every religion, universal brotherhood. Universal brotherhood means harmonious relationship with the other. But it has not been happening. So what is the one thing which the human being had to do in order to enjoy this happiness? Which is the basis of every religion. That was what was focused as my point of search for the future. And then it so happened I had no interest in the Bible, but somehow the 4 words in the Bible came to my attention. Thy will be done. 4 beautiful. When I first came across them, they really made some tremendous impression on me. Made a tremendous impression on me. Thy will be done. Meaning, nothing can happen unless it is God's will. And then I'm told, Islam says the same thing. In fact, someone told me recently, fairly recently, that the literal meaning of the word Islam is surrender. Literal meaning of the word Islam is surrender. And then it's with that moment, of course, I had already known it, but when someone here mentioned that it's surrender, that explores the whole thing into an answer. What does the human being, born with nothing and lives with nothing, this word, what does the human being have to surrender to God? What does the human being have to surrender to God? And the only thing which the human being has, which he can surrender to God, is his sense of personal doership. In other words, my will against thy will. So the reason I came to the conclusion, the reason the human being is unhappy, because he has not accepted the basis of the Christian religion, as I say it, thy will be done. Because when I say thy will, I say, what about my will? That means I don't accept thy will. Islam says the same thing. Hindu religion says the same thing in a much more deeper, powerful way. It says, Bible says, thy will be done. Hindu religion says, thou art the doer, thou art the experiencer. Thou art the speaker, thou art the listener. It looks as if Ramesh speaks, Bashi listens. Louis speaks, Ramesh listens. But if all three were in deep sleep or sedated into unconsciousness, none of them would be able to speak or listen or do anything. Therefore, who or what does anything? Consciousness. Without consciousness, we are unable to do anything. Therefore, obviously, it is consciousness which brings about speaking through one human instrument, listening through another human instrument, speaking through one human instrument, listening through this instrument. See? And that is the basis of every religion. So, from that, starting from the answer which I got, I had my first firm concept. And that at that point it seemed to me, this what a concept that I have is truly enlightenment that is spoken of. I said, the enlightenment that is spoken of cannot be anything other than this concept of mine. And what was the concept? In my own world. Everything in the world is happening according to God's will, cosmic law. How each happening affects whom, for better or worse, is again according to God's will, cosmic law. Through which body-mind instrument the happening happens, which the society calls my action or your action or her action or his action, is again according to God's will, cosmic law. The human being is incapable of doing anything because he is only an instrument through which God functions. See what I mean? So at that point I knew what enlightenment means according to my concept. Then I knew that enlightenment can only mean the total acceptance of my concept. Nothing can happen unless it is God's will. Through which body, mind, organism a happening happens, and whether it hurts someone or helps someone is also according to God's will, cosmic law. The human being is only an instrument and incapable of doing anything. For me, the total acceptance of this concept, whatever any scripture might say, for me, that is enlightenment. And later on, I came to know that the great Buddha's idea of enlightenment precisely the same, absolutely the same, in his own words. The Buddha's words, I am told, were, events happen, deeds are done, consequences happen, but there is no individual doer of any deed. Exactly the same. Then I pursued This is a concept which nobody is likely to accept. They have not accepted it for thousands of years. This concept which I call enlightenment. Why? Because it's a bloody stupid concept. To tell someone you are not the doer, when every moment the society punishes him or her for something she did, and for her to accept that I am not the doer, very difficult to accept. Therefore, what did I do? I didn't dare mention it to anybody. So I said, all I can do is pursue my concept and see what happens. Pursue my concept and find out whether what I get is happiness or frustration. The total acceptance. I am not the doer. When I was sure that the acceptance was total, then I found immediately at once the entire load of pride for my successful, good, charitable action disappeared. A bigger load of guilt and shame for my unsuccessful actions which have hurt others disappeared. And even a bigger load of hatred for others for what they had done to me, that load also disappeared. Therefore, no more load of hatred for myself or for anyone else. Which is obviously, I am at peace with myself and I am at peace with the other, whoever the other is. Why was I not comfortable with the other? Because with his sense of doership, he could hurt me any time. But now with the total, no human being can hurt me unless it is my destiny to be hurt. There was no question of hating the other, even if it is a stranger. So it turned out that it was a fact that if I am able to accept totally, no one is a doer, everyone is merely an instrument through which life happens according to God's will, cosmic law. No more load of hatred, which means I am comfortable with myself and I am comfortable with the other. And I decided that that is the happiness through peace of mind. Which is the result? Which is the result of the end of the load of hatred. Hatred for myself and hatred for the other. And the Buddha again comes to the same conclusion, had to. Buddha's concept about enlightenment, events happen, deeds are done, consequences happen, there is no individual doer of any deed. 2. What will enlightenment do? Again Buddha gives a straight answer, precisely. Enlightenment, he is much more accurate. He is much more accurate. He says enlightenment means the end of suffering. He doesn't say enlightenment means ananda, bliss, not even peace. Therefore he says, if those who are looking for enlightenment don't expect bliss and special powers. You can only expect the end of suffering. And what is the suffering which ends? The load of hatred for myself and hatred for the others. That load disappears. And the ending of that suffering can be termed happiness through peace of mind. And it is one very funny thing to me, not funny, but very, very gratifying. I came on my own, thinking on this in English, and I said, the happiness I want is happiness through peace of mind. What is peace of mind? being comfortable with myself, never being uncomfortable with myself, never being uncomfortable with the other. And then I told the Sanskrit, the Hindu version of the ultimate happiness has been for thousands of years Sukha Shanti. Sukha is happiness, Shanti is peace. Incredible. Incredible, the same two words. Sukha Shanti, incredible. I'm thinking in English and coming to it. And there for 5,000 years, the Rishi Munis, Sukha Shanti. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Would you like to sit here or are you happy?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Yes, I know you are Tendulkar.
Anand.
I know you are
Anand.
grandson of Justice Tendulkar.
Yes.
Your name is Anand.
Yes.
Okay, Anand, go ahead.
See, some time back I went through a depression. Okay.
When did you go through a depression?
3 months back.
3 months.
Yeah.
After all your spiritual seeking.
And now I'm out of it.
I see.
Right? So, in retrospect, I'm thinking
Yeah.
that I don't think the definition of depression is not accepting responsibility. Right? But in retrospect, I don't think I caused it, or whether if I could turn the clock back, I don't think I could have done anything different. And now also the fact that I'm out of it, I don't think it's due to anything I did. I went and I came. So in a way it connects with the same concept that
No, where is the connection?
it happened.
No.
And
Yes, the connection is very clear. Your earlier conditioning was a list of things to be done, a list of things not to be done. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Your earlier conditioning of how to live in order to be enlightened was to follow a program.
Of shoulds.
List of things to be done, a list of things not to be done. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And you found that it couldn't be done. You often did things which you should not have done. You often failed to do
I should
things
have.
which you should have done.
Sure.
And my point is, that is what brought about the depression.
Right.
That is what brought about the depression. I have failed as a seeker. I have failed as a seeker. That is the depression. See what I mean?
Yeah.
But the whole point is, whatever you did or did not do, you were not doing it. They were happening through this body-mind, precisely for the reason that they were supposed to happen, precisely the way they happened, through this particular body-mind organism, according to God's will, cosmic law. Therefore, you thought you were doing something you were not supposed to do. You thought you were not doing things which you were supposed to do. In other words, that depression was because not accepting the fundamental concept that no human being can be the doer of any deed, because the human being is fundamentally only a three-dimensional object through which God functions according to a cosmic law. Therefore, no action is anybody's action. The human being cannot be the doer of any action. Why?
Because of genes and conditions.
That is the point. Why is a human being fundamentally not able to do anything? Two perspectives. First, according to me, because the human being is fundamentally only a three-dimensional object. Fundamentally, the human being can only be a three-dimensional object, which together with the trillions and trillions of other objects constitutes the manifested universe. Fundamentally, what is the human being? A three-dimensional object. And an inert three-dimensional object simply cannot be expected to do anything. The other perspective is, then who lives his life? If the human being fundamentally is only a three-dimensional object, who lives his life? You see, that's the other perspective. And that perspective is the source of God, or pure energy, impersonal energy or impersonal consciousness, the source, not an entity, the source, a power, a force, functions through every human inert body-mind organism and brings about precisely what is supposed to happen through that body-mind organism at that time and place, a happening. Therefore, no one really is doing anything. No human being has ever done anything.
But Guruji, this understanding and acceptance, the fact that it was not happening and the fact that it is happening now is itself not in my control.
Is your what I call destiny.
Right.
Therefore my point is, Anand, my point is, fundamental point is, whatever happens to anyone is precisely what is supposed to happen according to the destiny. When does destiny begin? What do you think? According to your concept, when do you think the destiny begins?
Before we are born.
Before we are born. When before we are born? According to me, the moment conception occurs, the moment conception has occurred, the destiny has started. Whether that conception is going to be born a baby or whether it is going to be aborted or miscarried is the destiny of that perception, of that conception. Once the baby is born, the destiny continues for every split second, right up to the time that body-mind organism is alive. As long as the body-mind organism is alive, the source is functioning through that body, bringing about whatever is supposed to happen. And at the end of the life, how that body-mind organism is going to die, natural death or accident, murder or suicide, has already been destined, predetermined. And during that life, everything that is going to happen at every split second has already been predetermined. And what is predetermined is the destiny of that individual Anand. See what I mean? Therefore, everything that happens according to the destiny of the individual concerned according to God's will, according to the cosmic law. The human being can only witness whatever is happening as a movie which is being shown on the screen of consciousness. Only characters play, and the important point is, who are the characters? What about the characters who are enjoying themselves in pain? The source. The source is playing all the characters in this living movie. The source has created so many human objects. Source is function as pure energy or consciousness or whatever you're functioning through every body, mind, organ and creating the movie that we are watching. What happens is, we are so concerned with what happens in the movie, we are so concerned with what happens in the movie, that we forget the screen, which is what is permanent, the screen of consciousness. Okay.
Just one more thing.
Please, Anand, please.
There is a linkage between thoughts, feelings and actions.
Yes?
But since the thoughts themselves are not in our control, the whole linkage is not in our control. Right? I know that when I think a certain way, I feel a certain way and I act a certain way. For example, when I was going through the depression, I knew I was having negative dysfunctional thoughts. They were creating dysfunctional feelings and actions.
Now, wait a minute. What is your understanding about thought, thinking, action?
That one leads to another. The thought.
Give me an example.
Okay.
Thought. Thought leads to action.
Leads to feeling, leads to action.
Where does the thought come from?
That's the point. It's not mine.
That is the point. What leads to action? A thought leads to action. And no human being has ever had any control over what the next thought is going to be.
But Guruji, this whole thing of visualization and positive thinking, etc., then that doesn't work at all.
Why does a murderer commit a murder? For which, of course, the society will take its normal course. Because the murderer had a thought expecting him to murder somebody. But the murder could not have happened unless it is the destiny of the murdered person to be murdered. Therefore, what does it mean? It means a thought happens to the murderer tries to do the murder, but whether the murder happens or not is the destiny of the persons concerned, the murderer and the victim. Therefore, the thought leads to action. Therefore, every thought leads to action. There is no question about it. Then where does the unhappiness of the human being come in?
Taking ownership of the thought.
No, but that, I mean,
We know it's not.
everybody knows, I mean, the thought happened.
Or wishing that it were some other way, not accepting it.
No. My concept is, what brings unhappiness is not the thought or response, because the thought is not in your control. The unhappiness the human being suffers is not the thought.
The sense of doership creates the
No. The thinking. I make I make it, I have so many concepts like that which have to be most important, one of the most important is thought and thinking. Everybody, even Ramana Maharshi. The trouble is the human mind is full of thoughts. The human mind is full of thoughts. I said it can't be. The human mind is not capable of entertaining more than one thought at a time. The mind cannot be full of thoughts. I'm again speaking from experience. So what happens is, what is meant by mind is full of thoughts is not full of thoughts, but full of thinking, which the ego does. Happening of that thought, not in my control. But when I get involved in that thought is in a moment, vertical. When I get involved in that thought and start thinking in horizontal time,
Okay.
that is the thinking which occupies my mind and creates unhappiness.
But is that also under my control? That's not.
Even that is your control only to the extent. Even that, everything is destiny.
Yeah.
When will that be controlled? When will that be controlled? When your conditioning changes, that thinking will also change. When you what is happening now? Fresh conditioning. You have heard what I said, that it is the thinking which causes problems. So this fresh conditioning can change your existing conditioning, amend or alter it or even transform it. If what I said now is powerful enough to transform your thinking, then there need not be any more horizontal thinking. See what I mean? A thought happens, takes its action. Very similar again to my concept of the egoic reaction and biological reaction. There are so many concepts, but each concept I think is really my own because no one else has brought them out. The big difference is between the thought and thinking, and the other is the egoic reaction and biological reaction. What is our most unhappiness most depend on? I was angry, I shouldn't get angry. I was afraid, I shouldn't be afraid. I was disgusted with him, but he's my friend. I shouldn't have got disgusted.
The expectation.
Now that disgust, I'm told there are 6, when the eye sees something, or the ears hear something, or the nose smells something, or the tongue tastes something, or the fingers touch something, there is an immediate reaction, positive or negative. That, my concept is, that reaction is essentially biological reaction. Your genes and your up-to-date conditioning, over which you have no control. See what I mean? But what the ego does is get identified with a biological reaction as its own reaction and gets involved in it. What happens? My eye sees something, ears hear something, anger may arise. I see it as anger arising in a body-mind organism over which I have no control. As the ego, I have no control. Also, The arising of that anger is a happening according to my destiny. Therefore, that happening, the arising of anger, takes its course, and I have to accept the consequences, which is part of the destiny of this body-mind organism. So anger may arise, fear may arise, disgust may arise, surprise may arise, compassion may arise. All these are feelings which are biological reactions, depending on your genes over which you have no control, and your up-to-date conditioning over which also you have no control. So whether anger arises, or fear arises, or disgust arises, or surprise arises, or compassion arises, I witness it as an biological reaction in a body-mind organism which happens to be mine. And I have to accept the result of that happening. There is no question of my getting involved with that, personally involved with that reaction, which is what happens in the case of an ordinary person. How does the ordinary person get involved? Ego get involved in what is a biological reaction. Anger arises. And Louisa said, I was angry. I shouldn't get angry. When I get angry, my doctor has warned me, my blood pressure rises, I'll get a stroke or a heart attack. I must not get angry. I was afraid. I shouldn't get afraid. I want to be brave like my friend. But what can I do if my genes are such that I am not a brave person? Nothing I can do. On the other hand, a positive reaction may arise. I see some anger arising in the body, fear arising in another, surprise arising in the third, and compassion arising in me about whatever the eyes have seen or the ears have. Compassion arising. But the ordinary person says, I was angry, I was afraid. This time he says, he was angry, she was afraid, the third person was disgusted, but I am a compassionate person. Guilt and shame in the negative reaction, involvement, and pride in the positive involvement. Nonetheless, involvement. Nonetheless, involvement. That is the difference again between a man of understanding and someone who hasn't. To distinguish clearly between an egoic reaction, which is envy or jealousy, whereas this is a biological reaction. Therefore, how do I live my life? In any given situation, I do whatever I like, whatever I decide to do, knowing that whatever decision I have made depends on two factors, my genes and my up-to-date conditioning, over neither of which have I had any control. Therefore, although it is apparently my decision, it is a decision based on two factors which God infused in this body-mind organism. Therefore, whatever I have been doing all my life, whatever I have just done, is precisely what God expected me to do. Whatever I have done is based on two factors which God infused in this body-mind organism. Therefore, without the slightest doubt, whatever I thought I had been doing was actually God functioning through this body-mind organism and bringing about happenings which the society considered my actions, judged them as good or bad, rewarded me or punished me. Reward from the society was pleasure in the moment. Punishment from the society was pain in the moment, which I had to accept as my destiny. So, at any given moment, I do whatever I like, knowing that it is really not my action, it is God's action, but waiting for the result of that action, which may be pleasure or pain according to God's will, which I accept. Yes? Without, then I accept whatever the result of the pain or pleasure. Without any regrets about the past, which is dead, no complaints in the present, because I have already exercised my total free will, and no expectations in the future. No expectations in the future because I have no control over that. That means no frustration. And without condemning anybody for anything, neither myself nor the other. The result can be only one, Sukha Shanti, happiness through peace of mind, through happiness through peace of mind.
So is it accurate,
Please.
accurate to say that
Yes, Anand, go ahead.
a thought is a happening which leads to an action which is all part of destiny. On the other hand, thinking is something that I do,
But also as part of your destiny.
yeah, but that leads to suffering.
That's suffering which was your destiny. That's why you did the thinking. Yes.
Thank you.
So,
One moment.
just a very quick question.
Philip?
It's not
Is there more?
Ramesh, so for the thinking mind to end, the conditioning has to be totally transformed.
So, now, whatever you do depends on two factors, your genes and your up-to-date conditioning. To the extent that the reaction is on the genes, nothing you can do,
Yes,
except accept that you are not the doer.
yes, yes,
But the conditioning, and to be able to accept that you are not the doer, needs this fresh conditioning which is happening.
yes,
This fresh conditioning that is happening has the power merely to amend or transform it.
yes,
I've seen that happen.
yes. And the thinking mind keeps reducing and reducing itself.
Yeah, then the thinking mind, and it can be gradual, more often it is knowing that the thinking mind thinks I am the doer. But when the understanding goes deeper and deeper that you are not the doer, then you will find that the involvement becomes fewer and fewer and less intense every time. But the process is a time process. When the understanding is total, but the functioning of the understanding may take some time. In a conceptual scale of 0 to 10, as the understanding goes deeper, from 0 to 10, your actual experience will be involvement is bound to happen.
Yes,
The involvement happens and continues over that conceptual space of 7, 8, 9, 10. But at some point, even the intellectual understanding, make no mistake, even the intellectual understanding has the power to arise and cut off the involvement. Therefore, cutting off the involvement is not your responsibility.
Yeah. It's a happening.
That involvement may happen and it will happen, but your actual experience will be that the involvement happens to be cut off at a certain point. And when your experience is that, then you find yourself relaxing, merely witnessing the involvement getting cut off. The involvement becomes pure and pure, less and less intense, which is a great encouragement. Or it can be an obstruction also. When is it going to? So even that is your destiny.
Yes. And that's involvement. When is it going to
That itself is an involvement. Okay.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Where does grace come in?
Grace comes in when your destiny changes. When your destiny is supposed to change, it will change. And then you call it grace.
So there's nothing you can do to invoke it.
Grace cannot change your destiny.
It's inbuilt into the destiny.
Grace cannot change your destiny. When the destiny is changed, religion gives it a name, grace. Right? Any question? Yes, please. More. Giri. Okay.
Reminded of Arunachala.
Yes,
So
what do you do in Chennai?
I am doing business.
I see.
I've got a small little shop.
I see.
Earlier to that, I was producing documentary
I see.
on temples and the festivals.
I see. You
Now
look
I've
like,
stopped with that. I will continue that a little later.
you look like a film man.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know
I would
why.
love to become one anyway. To make more money on that anyway.
Go ahead, Giri.
Thank you, with your blessings.
Giri, go ahead.
So I heard you saying that the deep sleep state.
Yes.
Now, to the general understanding, in deep sleep, I don't know whether I am alive or dead.
That is the point.
So where does this happiness or sukha or shanti, how do I comprehend them?
You can't.
That's
That
what
is the point. That is why the source is alone reality. The state of reality. Who can? There can't be two selves.
Yes.
So for you to understand that the happiness of the soul,
It's not possible.
there have to be two. There are no two selves.
So there is nothing to know.
This is a concept. That is why I keep saying everything is a concept. Therefore, the concept is at the moment I am not as happy as I would like to be. Therefore, the whole focal point is what do I have to do in order to be happy?
And the answer for that lady was that on the level of understanding from 0 to 10, the involvement is cut off,
Yeah.
which is not in my hands.
Again, everything according to destiny.
So in that sense, am I not doomed in pursuit of the so-called enlightenment or whatsoever it is?
No, you are that you are a seeker.
Okay.
Seeking happiness through peace of mind.
Okay.
That is what. So that leads us to this concept of non-doership.
Okay.
And the progress of the sense of non-doership is what we talked about as the involvement.
Okay.
And the process of non-doership, even first beginning and then being accepted, is itself your destiny.
Is there really acceptance, Maharaj?
No, in the case of most people, they are not interested. They are not interested. They think they're wasting their time.
True.
Therefore, what is the general picture? The general picture giving is that as soon as a newborn baby is born and seeks his mother's breast intuitively, my point is, the human being seeks happiness. For the baby doesn't think.
Yes.
Therefore, the natural happiness, which means the baby doesn't think, doesn't want to be
Doesn't even know either.
Doesn't want to know either, which is you may call peace. But for the baby, happiness means mother's milk. Then the baby grows up into a schoolboy.
Get spoiled.
For the schoolboy, what is happiness? Love of the parents at home, success in the classroom, success in the playing field. The boy grows up into an adult, and the adult decides so many pleasures in life. Therefore, the adult pursues pleasures in the belief that he is pursuing happiness. And the destiny of most people is to continue to do that and die a frustrated death. But it is the destiny of a few people like us who a thought happens. I know what pleasure is. I am reasonably comfortable in life, for which I am eternally grateful to God. I know what pleasure is, and still, why do I have the deep feeling that I am not happy? And then a seeker is born. Only therefore, therefore I confess, what I am saying is not meant for the ordinary person.
Yes.
Then they may say, all right, you are talking about, what about those below the poverty line? That's God's business.
Very true.
See what I mean?
Very true.
Therefore, the very fact that we are seeking happiness is our special destiny as God's favorites. Allah ke pyare. We are God's favorites. Why? According to God's will, cosmic law, the basis of which we can never understand. Why can we not understand the basis of God's will? Because God's will, cosmic law, concerns the entire universe for all time. Something so vast and complex, the human brain cannot understand. We can only accept, thy will be done. So some of us have that feeling that I know what pleasure is. Even if I get all the pleasures, I still won't have the happiness. And then the most important conclusion happens. Most important conclusion happens. The happiness I am seeking is not to be found in the pleasures of life.
True.
Therefore, the happiness I am seeking is not to be found in the flow of life. Therefore, the happiness I am seeking is to be found in my attitude to life. My attitude to life means my attitude towards the other. And therefore, then, what has been my attitude towards the other so far, which has not brought me the happiness?
True.
And there we have started today.
The whole cycle starts again.
Then the whole thing starts.
But the real happiness is that not knowing. Is that so?
The real happiness is our natural state.
That's not knowing. In the case of a newborn baby.
Yeah, not knowing, not caring.
Okay. Not caring.
not wanting any pleasure.
Hmm.
Not wanting any pleasure. That's the ultimate state. Not wanting anything.
Bless us. Thank you.
Therefore, the point really is that ultimately we realize that there's only, what am I seeking? Happiness. Who is seeking happiness? The one who is seeking happiness simply doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Ramesh is the one who is seeking happiness. Who is Ramesh? Ramesh is the impersonal consciousness identified with this particular name and form as a separate entity with a sense of personal doership called the ego.
Yes.
So it is the ego who is seeking happiness only so long as the ego is alive.
Alive.
And once the body is dead, the ego in life, in relationship with the other, is no longer needed. When the body is dead, the ego is not needed, the identified consciousness is not needed, therefore the identified consciousness again becomes impersonal consciousness. That is the process which has been going on for millions of years. Why bother?
So I play no role.
Let life flow. Okay.
Thank you.
Not at all.